Taslima, you're like, okay, I guess she's gonna join the yellow brick road now. She's like talking about LA. She says, once you figure it out, it's not so bad. And then she immediately gets shot.
Once you figure out this place, it's really not so bad.
Gotcha, bitch!
And I laughed out loud.
Dude,
it's not so bad. Pow!
So
I was like, oh, what's poppin', corn dogs? We are back. Season 2. Here we are.
Season dose.
Should I make that dose?
Season dose. Just like Snake Plissken. We are back, baby.
What a little foreshadowing there, my friend.
They can see the episode title. If you don't know what movie we're reviewing at this point in the show, I can't really help you.
Honestly, I feel that way about most things in life, James. I can't help you. You just got to sit down and take it. And today, we're taking it the same way we took it when we started this journey, my friend. Our first movie we ever reviewed here on the Just Play It podcast
was Mad Max.
Was Escape. The second movie that we reviewed.
Mad Max will be this will be a calendar year theme. We're watching all the Mad Max movies in 2023. However, our second episode ever was randomly Escape from New York. So we figured, what better way to come back with a sequel, just like John Carpenter coming back, directing his first and only sequel with Escape from L.A.
That's damn right. Escape
Baby.
from L.A. 1996.
Now, I saw that timestamp and I was pretty surprised. This is 15 years after the first one came out.
Yeah.
Which is odd, right?
Yeah. It's a long time.
It's almost Fast and Furious-esque. Like, Vin Diesel comes back and he says, I want to reprise Dominic Toretto, which is essentially what happened here. Kurt Russell, they were trying to get a sequel off the ground since the mid-'80s. I think a script came out. They didn't like it. But Kurt Russell, man, he loves Snake Plissken, and he wanted to play Snake Plissken again. And he approached John Carpenter with ideas and said, please, can we make an Escape from New York 2? And they landed on a idea of Escape from Los Angeles.
And here we are. It is a little bit of fun because in the movie, they pretty much say this is like 15 years in the future from Escape from New York.
It's confusing because the movie came out in 81. The timestamp in the beginning when it says crime has risen 400%, that is 1988. So that's already 7 years into the future already. But Escape from New York takes place in 1997, I believe.
Yeah, because this is 2013.
Yeah, because this movie opens up in 1997, but it came out in 96. And it says, something happened in 97, yada, 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 time jump to 2013, which I thought was funny because that was just like 10 years ago.
I love watching 80s or 90s movies when they flash forward to 2015, 2020. You know, even 70s movies where it's like the year's 2001. And you're like, okay,
dude,
buddy.
You got to go hundreds of years into the future. You got to do it. Actually, no, iRobot, I think that was like 2040 or something.
With the current state of AI, dude, I don't know. That could be closer rather than farther away.
I think they might be a little bit closer to the mark than some other movies. Fifth Element, that went 300 years into the future. So that's like, okay, way more believable.
Yeah, and I think Minority Report was a solid amount of time in the future as well.
Yeah. But anyway, this is a throwback action movie that takes place in the quote-unquote future of 2013. Now, this movie, like I stated, is directed by John Carpenter. And yes, this is the only sequel he came back to direct, which I believe was heavily influenced by Kurt Russell's desire to play Snake Plissken. Kurt Russell has his only writing credit on this movie. He helped write this movie. He loves this character. He loves this. It's not a franchise. It's just 2 movies, but he loves Snake.
This is an interesting time for him because you get Escape from New York. And you're like, okay, he wasn't quite famous yet. He wasn't quite Kurt Russell yet. But by the time you get to the mid-90s, Kurt Russell's a household name. So to come back and reprise this role when you are a bona fide movie star is a pretty interesting decision, I'd say.
I'm looking at his rap sheet here on IMDb. He was the voice, an uncredited voice of Elvis Presley in Forrest Gump. Interesting. Yeah, he's hitting his stride here.
Yeah, he did Stargate. He did Tombstone. Yeah.
Oh, Big Trouble in Little China. We're adding that to the list. Who else is in this movie?
Alongside Kurt Russell, we have Steve Buscemi, Stacy Keach, and AJ Langer. Obviously, Steve Buscemi, household name. Stacy Keach is a face that you would probably recognize. I want to say, because he plays here the commander, I think he plays like old gristled cop or old gristled military veteran. I think he's just a typecast kind of guy at this point.
Yeah, because Lee Van Cleef was basically the same character in Escape from New York, but he was a little bit more, I think, well known for at least Westerns. But this guy, Stacy Keach, yeah, he was in The Bourne Legacy. He was in Blue Bloods, The Blacklist. I can only imagine he was a cop. He was in NCIS.
Again, I just have to imagine he's the same character all the time.
And AJ Langer, didn't really recognize her. Apparently, she's known for Baywatch, My So-Called Life, and The People Under the Stairs, alongside Escape from L.A.
So she's not really a huge part. It's a little similar to Escape from New York, where you meet a lot of these characters along the way, but none of them are really standout big name guys. There is one more standout big name guy.
Okay, so immediately off the bat,
we could name him right now. Cliff Robertson.
You know what's funny? I was watching TV. I was putting on movies just to play in the background while I was doing some work. And Sam Raimi's Spider-Man recently came on Disney Plus. I'm like, perfect, throwing this on. And I was watching the Uncle Ben scene, and I literally had this thought, Nick, look at me through the camera. I literally thought, wow, I've never seen Uncle Ben in anything else. I had that thought this Sunday. The next day, I play Escape from L.A., and I'm like, who's messing with me? That's Uncle Ben. I just said I haven't seen him in anything else. He's just Uncle Ben to me. And then I hear him talk, and I look at him, and I think, I know this guy. And then it was probably the second or third scene. I'm like, Uncle Ben.
First things first, rest in peace, Uncle Ben. For real.
You son of a bitch.
It's Uncle Ben.
Woo! I was delighted. But it's just the universe, man, that just messes with you like that. Because I had that thought. I was like, I've never seen you in anything else. And then I cue up this movie. Lo and behold, Cliff Robertson plays a douchey president of the United States in Escape from L.A. His top 4 on IMDb, known for: 1, Spider-Man. 2, Escape from L.A. 3, Charlie. 4, Spider-Man 2. He's Ben Parker, baby.
It's who he is. It's who he will always be.
His last appearance was Spider-Man 3.
That's going out on a high note, if you ask me. 2011 is when he passed. Rest in peace, my friend. Friend of the show. Forever friend of the show.
A legendary icon of the show. That's who's in this movie. And before we get into the log line, someone needs to hit the fire alarm, because this... yeah. No, we're starting on season 2 with a bomb, baby.
Bombastic reviews. You just got blown up. The Bomba Yaga. Bombastic. It sucks.
I will be the one revealing the budget and the return, whereas Nick, after watching this movie and discussing it, will need to make an educated guess as to what the budget was and what the return was. As a reminder for you new listeners and old, what qualifies as a bomb in our podcast is when the movie does not make back at least 60% of its budget.
Correct.
Could be right at the halfway point. It could be a 7% Pluto Nash situation.
Oof.
Who knows?
So not making back at least 60% of the money. That's a bomb, and that's what we have here.
You lose 40%. I was kind of surprised. I did the research on this, and I didn't think it bombed, especially just looking back at the original one. which had such a tiny budget, and then it had a triple return. That's what we're dealing with. Escape from L.A. It's a bomb. It's a sequel. Here we go again. Nick, I'm going to read this logline.
Hit me.
Snake Plissken is once again called in by the United States government to recover a potential doomsday device from Los Angeles. Now, an autonomous island where undesirables are deported. I gotta say, they snuck a little hints in there. The phrase is once again, and I'm just gonna leave that there for the audience.
Here we go again.
Again.
What
time is it?
James, I think it's time for the first time in season 2. We're going to do some plot talk.
Season 2 plot talk. Plot talk. We back. Plot talk again. Plot talk, the sequel. Here we go.
Plot talker. Talkest. Talkier.
To plot, to talkier.
All right, well, we're opened up with James, our favorite device in film. Opening explanations.
I need instructions. Our title cards, I believe, are replaced by narration, correct?
They are. So here we have a lot of narration, and we've talked about this on the pod a ton. There's a couple ways to build a world. One is show, and one is tell. Now, we love movies that show, but this movie's like tell. Now, the good thing about this movie is if you've seen Escape from New York, they're basically telling you the same setup here. So
you won't be lost.
Nah, it's pretty straightforward. So in the year 2000, a massive earthquake strikes the city of Los Angeles and it cuts it off from the mainland as the San Fernando Valley floods. And then we have this new president who comes in because he declares that God is punishing Los Angeles for all of its sins. And he gets elected and is elected to a lifetime term in office. And he decides to enact a bunch of strict morality laws. Violators are given a choice between losing your U.S. citizenship and a permanent deportation to this new Los Angeles prison island, or repentance and death by execution. Electrocution, sorry. So what we have here...
Execution.
It is. I mean, it's still execution, but it's execution.
This is Cliff Robertson as the president explaining all of this. And he does say the city of Los Angeles is ravaged by crime and immorality. It wasn't even for the movie. It was actually just a PSA before the movie started. And then they got into it.
Los Angeles folks. So here's what we're dealing with.
We do time jump from 1998 to 2013 after this massive earthquake. And I gotta say, there was a lot of, Nick, cue in on this. There was a lot of special effects used for destruction scenes.
Yes.
I saw a couple behind the scenes actual builds of that freeway collapse. They actually built that, triggers and explosives to have that collapse.
Okay. Taking that note down for box office and budget.
Yep, note it down. There was some CGI in there. I gotta say, the tsunami coming over the Santa Monica Pier.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I was like, hey, this is like from that crappy show 911. They stole it from this movie. And my second thought was, it kind of looks better than it. I wasn't really mad. I wasn't really mad at the effects in the beginning. There's some effects down the line that are laughable, but for the most part, it's forgivable for the time.
At this point in the movie, it's forgivable, correct? There will be more to get into, don't you worry.
Oh, you just wait.
So yeah, we have the same setup as our first movie, Escape from New York. We have a prison island, a prison territory.
Oh yeah, and it did create a body of water around L.A., which is now an island, because it's not actually an island right now.
For those of you who don't know your U.S. geography, Los Angeles is not currently an island.
Yeah.
But in this movie, it is.
But it could be. Maybe one day.
So this is the year 2013, and the U.S. has developed a super weapon known as the Sword of Damocles.
Did you really pronounce the W in sword?
I did. I was hoping you'd notice that.
Is that how you're supposed to say it? Sword?
I'd never say that. I never say it that way in polite society.
You just want to throw a wrench in the system right now? Call it a sword?
I was trying to enunciate for the podcast, and I just went with sword.
Maybe that's correct. I always say just
it's not.
Sword.
It's sword. It's sword. Okay. But I just wanted to mess with you a little bit.
The Sword of Damocles.
So we have this weapon known as the Sword of Damocles, a satellite system. It's basically this giant EMP, right? So it's the satellite in the sky. You could shoot it at a country or a city or a nation, state, and shut off all of its power. Basically, render all of its electronics.
Apparently, it has
useless.
amazing precision because you can. I think they quote, "Oh, you can shut down like a single car or an entire country." I'm like, this thing's overpowered.
It's just one of those like action movie weapons where they don't explain it. They're just like, this is dangerous and it can shut off all the power. And you're like, okay, I'll accept it, I guess, for what it is.
All right, sounds terrible. There should be a lot of fail-safes enacted, but I guess we'll find that out.
Won't ask a lot of questions as of yet. And so the president is intending to use this to dominate the world into his morality laws by saying, if you don't comply, I'm basically going to shut down your country. He has this daughter named Utopia. So if you don't think this guy's a nut job, he named his daughter Utopia. And she steals the remote control for the system and escapes to this Los Angeles island and delivers it to the main bad guy we're going to meet later on. I'm trying to remember his name in Escape from New York, but...
Well, hold on. Wait.
Yeah.
He wasn't bad. Oh, you're talking about the villain in Escape from New York? It was the Duke.
We basically have a Duke-like character.
We have a Duke 2.0. Speaking of the Duke, Isaac Hayes did want to come back as well. And he pitched that he said, I could play the son of the Duke. And John Carpenter was like, I don't think that would be, you're older now. I don't think that'll work.
Isaac, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, but nah, dog. But you're forgetting something.
Oh.
The daughter, Utopia, again, we're going to say this word a lot again. Air Force 1 or 3, for that matter. This is Air Force 3 in this
yes,
movie.
It is.
It gets hijacked again by domestic terrorists, who is Utopia. Granted, they probably wouldn't hold her to the same strict security measures as, normal terrorists, but she is committing an act of treason on her country. So just like Escape from New York, Air Force One gets hijacked and someone jumps out of the plane through a pod and crash lands in a hostile island full of degenerates and misfits.
Do I need to go over my pod scenarios again? How much we just love the idea of pods.
I mean, you know what?
It's season 2. It's more pod talk.
It'd be kind of funny if we just... Hey, that movie gave us the same product. It's only fair that we give the listeners the same product.
This has become a pod.
This is the pod's pod for all you pod heads out there.
Yeah, it's not much to go. There was just... These action movies loved these very convenient devices. And this convenient device that was around in the 80s and a little bit in the 90s was the idea of just escape pods. And the pods didn't have physics. No one worried about what happened to the pods once they landed. They were just pods.
Well, I think maybe they got, I don't know when the first introduction of pods was in movies, but obviously the earliest one I can think of is A New Hope, Star Wars, where C-3PO and R2-D2 escape in a pod in the very beginning of the movie and crash land on Tatooine. That is going out into space where it just kind of floats and you can rocket propel yourself somewhere. Pods in gravity zones, however, no explanation to how they work.
Yeah, I think back to a classic in cinema, which is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Did you just Google that?
60s.
I heard your keyboard popping off.
I wanted to double check the year.
Okay.
It's the late 60s. And they had escape pods. I mean, escape pods were just, I want to say it was similar. I mean, the Jetsons, you know, they would get out of... You
mentioned that in the Escape from New York pod, about talking about pods.
Deja fucking vu, guys. It's just pods, man.
Shout out John Carpenter. He's directing this sequel.
And he likes pods.
Utopia crash lands in a hostile territory in a pod. And Snake is brought in to go recover her. Just like he needed to recover the president in Escape from New York.
And he is, again, an outlaw. They're like, we're going to, we'll send you to prison or sentence you to death, but here's this opportunity in front of you to go into the island. And James, tell me the plot device they used to motivate him.
You may have saw a similar tactic used in Escape from New York, but it is a lethal injection that is on a timer. Except this timer, however, is less than half the time. Originally, in the first movie, he had 24 hours, and I think did they just like stab him with it, and he was just caught off guard in Escape from New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just a quick jab.
So in this movie, he's walking down the hallway and someone scratches his hand, and you're thinking, okay, that is something I should be thinking about later. And then as soon as we get pretty much a repeat of the same plot when they bring Snake in, they do mention everything he's done since then. They mention Cleveland a lot.
I'm just going to put this out there now. Cleveland's going to be a problem for us this whole podcast.
Cleveland's a problem in real life.
The real city of sin should have been Cleveland.
He's brought in and they're saying, oh, you were a decorated war hero. What happened? Now you did this, you did that. You broke all these moral laws we have in effect. And Snake is just like, whatever. Like, bring me in. I'll be in this hellhole territory, L.A. What I've survived. I went through Cleveland. I got this.
What happened in Cleveland?
What's funny is that they're bringing him down this hallway, and there is some PA system voice coming through some speakers, and it's explaining like, oh, you must pay for the crimes that you committed. You must live in LA. Or there's a last-ditch effort to just electrocute you. And it's funny because they put the electrocution section in the hallway as you're walking up to the processing zone. So just to think about the logistics, as they bring in new prisoners, they purposely put the electrocution area in the hallway. Just so it's like, I don't know if it's like free advertising. Like, hey, you could be shocked.
It's very like ancient Roman, right? They would have the crucified criminals on the road into the city. They're like, this is the alternative. And you're like, oh shit, no thank you. I'll go to this prison island.
They bring Snake in. They show him a 3D immersive video, I guess you would call it. He's like in the scene where Utopia is on Air Force 3, saying that she stole the Doomsday controller device. He's saying, oh, I'm immersed in this. I'm like in the scene, except it's not really that well done for today's standards. I'm sorry. The officers. So this is Stacy Keach and what the hell is her name? Brazen?
Who are you trying to look for?
The girl agent.
No, Stacy Keach is the commander, and the girl agent.
No, Stacy Keach is the guy.
Michelle Forbes. No, Jordan Baker, maybe police anchor.
Whatever. So Snake is in the room with the commander and this other officer lady, and they're explaining what Utopia has done. They're explaining to him what he needs to go do. He says, why would I do this? You're going to inject me with a lethal virus? And they're like, how'd you guess? We already did that.
It's already done.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, it's from when he got scratched. That apparently that was deep enough to give him a lethal injection, which is kind of messed up. Pretty messed up. And the president walks in and says, you're going to do this. And he tries to attack them, but this is where we learn that they are actually holograms.
Big plot twist. They're holograms.
And we pan out, we pan back, and it's revealed it's kind of like an interrogation room with maybe like a dual-sided mirror window. And they're actually on the other side of the wall in real time saying what they're saying to Snake, except they're just in a separate room.
They do a little bit of like an action movie laugh. They're like, ha ha ha, you think we would be in the room with you?
Like, I told you he was stupid. Oh, and Stacy Keach, I gotta go back and count the times he calls Snake Hotshot. He called him Hotshot a lot. He's like, you didn't think we thought of that, Hotshot? Like, check out Hotshot over here. Cool your jets, Hotshot. Hey, Hotshot, want a hot dog?
He also does this thing, and I saw the second I was watching this, I knew it was coming. He does this thing where he calls him Snake. He's like, come on, Snake. And this is very similar to Escape from New York. And I was like, at the end of the movie...
In the beginning, he says, come on, Plissken. And then in the beginning, Snake says, call me Snake. And you're like, okay, I wonder what that's about.
In Escape from New York, he did the same thing. But at the end, he said, it's Plissken. right? We're not on informal terms anymore.
That's what we kind of agreed that what that meant, right? Like, because that's how I took it. Because he says, "I go by Snake, call me Snake," and then at the end of Escape from New York, when he's betrayed by the government, I saw it as you know what, you betrayed me. I don't agree with you. F you. Call me Mr. Plissken. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And the same thing happens in this movie.
As soon as he does the "call me Snake," I'm like, we're getting the line at the end, which is "call me Pliskin." Like I just knew it.
Which is easy to call because about 15 minutes into this movie, this is when you figure out this is the same exact movie as Escape from New York.
It's the same fucking movie.
At the 15-minute mark, he is in a separate room going over the weapons and utility items that the government is supplying him, which echoes the same exact thing in the previous movie. So they're
getting
going over
poisoned with a time limit. You're like, okay, so same premise. Got it.
What's the gun called? The core
I can't
core
even
infirmary,
recall.
the core infirmarator, the coroninator.
I don't know, but it was a big gun.
Dude, that thing was...
Because I distinctly remember him walking throughout the rest of the film going like, man, people are
core
gonna...
burner.
That's what it is. I distinctly remember him walking through the streets of Los Angeles later on thinking, this guy's carrying a really large gun, and a lot of people are pretty relaxed about it.
Well, and I have something to say about that when we get to a certain scene. We'll get there. So he's going over all the weapons, so he gets this freaking overpowered machine gun. He also gets a mouth dart to spit at somebody.
The mouth dart.
Kind of like a blow dart, and it'll incapacitate them. And the third item he gets is a hologram projector, which he got bamboozled with in the beginning. And apparently that can project your image up to half a mile away.
I like the very specific specs on some of these items. It's not like, oh, this will project your image. It's like, this will project your image on this, in this condition over up to a half mile. You're like, I don't know why that's important, but with these movies, you know for a fact that if they're telling you specifically, like, yeah, this is happening. It's like same with like this scratch on the hand. You're like, this is happening.
It'll be in your mind for the whole time. You're like, okay, I'm waiting for that to be relevant.
Yep, we'll sit on that.
So Snake is facing deportation for a series of crimes, and he once again can get a pardon by doing this task of retrieving the controller, and the president says, by the way, you can kill my daughter. He doesn't say you can date my daughter. That would be the movie My Date with the President's Daughter. This is my assassination date with the president's daughter.
My date with the president's daughter.
Yeah, he's basically like, kill this bitch.
That's like a bonus side mission for achievement points.
And now we also realize this very morally theocratic, morally high-horsed theocratic politician is not who he says to be, right? You're like, oh, okay. He's just another corrupt. You're just another corrupt government official, right? Again, mirroring Escape from New York.
And reality.
So Snake gets his equipment and he gets a one-man submarine and he basically gets thrown onto the island.
As opposed to the one-man glider from Escape from New York. We're going underwater.
Yes. Yeah, right? We have a water barrier. It's a very different film now, guys. Very different. We're going underwater.
It was like Ice Ice Baby changing the song Under Pressure with the little ting, ting. That's the MO of this movie. It's the Ice.
That's exactly.
It's the Ice Ice Baby to Queen's Under Pressure.
I don't even know if I think this is just a straight up like sample of a song. Like this is a straight up sample remix. Yeah.
That's what Ice Ice Baby is. They just added a little ting ting.
So it's very egregious how similar this movie is at this point. And I'm not going to get into everything that happens on the island because we've talked about an Escape from New York. We'll touch on some things, obviously, but
Nick, you had a great idea of playing these movies side by side and seeing if they play out at the same pace and the same things happen.
Yeah, I really wanted to. I did not get the chance to, but I thought to myself, they're both an hour and 40 minutes, give or take, 30 seconds. Honestly, it's that close of time. And I thought to myself, if I played these side by side, would they have the same plot beats, right? At the same time, he gets poisoned, the same time he gets sent in, the same time he meets these characters. And I can't confirm it because I didn't try it, but I would bet a lot of money that it is the exact same. It's the exact same movie.
I'd love to try that. We should have a sit-down anniversary watch of both movies.
So if you've seen Escape from New York, I'll tell you right now, you've seen Escape from Los Angeles. Similar to Escape from New York, he goes to look for there was a rescue team that went in, and he has a little GPS, and he's close to this rescue team. He goes in the building, that rescue team's dead. Of course, it's not that simple, right?
Well, I want to bring up something here. There's a couple punks there throwing knives at the dead recovery team member. And
Yes.
they have quite the jaw and cojones on them, approaching Snake as he's leaving the facility with knives when Snake is obviously carrying the core burner. And they are jawing at this guy like, yeah, you better walk away. And he's about to throw the knife, and Snake just turns around and just guns this man down. I'm like, why would you antagonize the man with the machine gun?
This is what I was talking about earlier, where I was saying he carries around a big gun throughout the most of the film, and guys, people are just looking at him like, hey, buddy. Also, we have the same exact scenario that we had in Escape from New York, where he is just famous among criminals. Everybody knows. Now,
No
I'll give you
internet.
this.
Everybody knows what he looks like.
I'll give you this. After the events of Escape from New York, he probably gained a lot of notoriety. So I'll give you that. However, it still is an unexplained thing, and a lot of people, similar to Escape from New York, were like, how does everybody know him? How does everybody know him? Everybody here is mentioning Cleveland.
Dude, they
And we
can't
never
shut up
learn-
about what happened in Cleveland.
But we never know what happened in Cleveland. And this is going to be a theme through the fucking movie.
This echoes the first movie when everyone kept saying, I thought you were supposed to be dead. Aren't you dead? I thought you were dead. So the Cleveland mystery backstory is the new I thought you were dead line that everybody says to Snake. Everyone says, oh, well, after what happened in Cleveland, I can't believe you made it out alive. What the hell, Cleveland?
What has he been up to in between Escape from New York and Escape from Los Angeles? He was in Cleveland doing God knows what.
Snake actually meets this character who, once again, echoes another character from Escape from New York, which would be Cabby. This character is Steve Buscemi, and he is Map to the Stars Eddie. He's kind of a swindler who sells like tours. Like if you go to L.A., there's always like those star tours guides. Like, hey, why don't you want to be a weirdo stalker and see where all these famous people live and drive by their gated communities and their house is 50 miles up the road? Well, we can do that. He's dressed a little tacky, little car salesman-y. He's
almost dressed like the Joker.
I was going to say he looked like the Joker, except with a bowler hat on.
Yeah, glad hander. You could tell he's just going with the flow. He tries to offer Snake his map to the. He's like, you want to learn to get around Los Angeles? Purchase my map to the Stars tour. I'll walk you through the city of Los Angeles. And this is Steve Buscemi's character.
And Snake's asking, hey, where's Cuervo Jones? That's the big bad, the bad guy of L.A.
He's our Duke of this film.
Map to the Stars Eddie says he's the man with the juice. So shout out to a previous episode of Juice, because he is the man who's got the juice. He's got it. He's got the power. He's got the streets by the horns. He is the man. Don't mess with Cuervo Jones.
He's juicing.
But Snake don't care. Snake comes in. They're having some sort of like revolutionary parade in some nighttime street scene with motorcycles and lowriders. Utopia is kind of like the trophy pseudo girlfriend of Cuervo. And Snake comes in like a goddamn badass and hijacks a motorcycle. And we get this awesome convoy action scene of him hopping from car to car, shooting up bitches, driving motorcycles. Cuervo Jones is like, is that Snake Plissken? So again, just people can just recognize other criminals with no, it's like the Wild West. There's no TVs. There's no internet out there.
There's nothing.
There's like, that looks like Snake Plissken.
So I can see why the legend is there. Again, I just want to know what happened in Cleveland. Another guy we meet very early on is Pipeline, who's a surfing enthusiast. And he's convinced, he kind of talks to Snake like, hey, I know who you are. He's another one of those guys that's like, well, Cleveland.
This is Peter Fonda. And it's funny because
This is Peter Fonda.
when he lands in L.A. with the submarine, Peter Fonda's part of like the surfer gang. And I think they like sabotage the submarine or the pier or something and bring him down. He's like, we just don't want you on our turf. And then, Snake is like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to leave. And then Peter Fonda like chases him down. He's like, hey, I just thought about it. I recognize you. You're Snake Plissken. And it's just like, cool. Like,
just like Escape from New York, everybody's like, wait, you're the guy. It's like, how long have you been stuck in this LA prison? How do you know who this guy is?
it seems like he's a beach bum and he lived there forever.
Which kind of begs the question in the same as Escape from New York, which is, what happens to these folks who've been living here when the island flooded and they turned it into a prison island? Like, is this a guy who just stuck around because he had nowhere else to go?
I think he just likes to surf, so probably.
But he's not by the beach. He's like in the reservoirs.
I mean, that's where the beach is now. It's like a sinking, weird channel island.
It's something. Snake also gets caught by this group of sicko plastic surgeons.
Yeah, so this was hilarious. He does run into a woman, Taslima, who is a Muslim woman who got deported for being Muslim in America. She is staking out the Beverly Hills Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
She's like in a bush. Snake also joins said bush. And she's like, you're making too much noise in my bush. Go find a new bush. And he's like, you're the one making all the noise.
Yeah, you're the one making all the noise. It's like, wait, what?
And then so he walks out and there's like this Grim Reaper looking character. And I'm like, uh-oh, creepy cult alert. And turns out it is in fact a cult, but it's a plastic surgery cult. And there's a nurse that comes up to them. They're tied up on like a stand-up gurney, looking like they're about to be tortured. And I thought, gosh, her face looks f***ed up. Like, what the hell is that? and everybody in the room has really exaggerated, almost cartoonish looking faces.
Yep.
This is like Escape from L.A.'s version of cannibals, I guess, because they have to feed on or harvest body parts from living beings, to uphold their plastic surgery. And Taslima explains that she says, she lays it out for the audience and says, these are botched plastic surgery people and they need to keep feeding on real people to keep their plastic surgery valid. I don't know how it works.
It's such a weird moment. And this is another one of those convenient plots. So
so just to defend this movie real quick, this is the moment I thought, oh, this is actually a departure from Escape from New York, because this is the first hint where it seems like they're self-aware of how campy they're being with what's happening. Escape from New York, it seemed like they were playing that pretty serious throughout the movie and cheesy things happened. But in this movie, it seemed like, oh, they're okay with getting a little goofy.
I disagree. I don't think they were trying to be goofy. We could disagree on that point, but I thought they thought this was a fun, like, this was a good plot point. So this main plastic surgeon, the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills is who he is. And the actor's name...
It's Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell. And if you've ever watched the show Burn Notice, this is Sam Axe of Burn Notice.
Have you ever watched, what's those movies? Evil Dead. He is Ash.
He, again, a famous character. He's great.
He's a cult classic actor. And so I actually
Army of Darkness, another cult classic.
I saw Bruce's name in the beginning, and I was looking for him throughout the movie. And I got to say, by the third act, I randomly thought, I said, I didn't see Bruce. Is he coming up? I was like, was there any goofy, significantly featured characters? And I thought, oh, the Surgeon General plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
That was Bruce Campbell.
Sure was.
I love how we're really showing our generation. The first thing you reference is Burn Notice.
I love Burn Notice, dude.
Great
Stop
show.
It.
Great show.
It's not, but anyway.
It's a really bad show. That's good.
It is. So Bruce Campbell's character, the surgeon, is there. He's like, oh, you only have one good eye, right? Because Snake Plissken has his eye patch.
He's like, oh, it's a shame you only have one eye. Pretty blue eyes.
And so he's going to go take his eye out. And then Snake, out of his mouth, shoots that like
The mouth dart.
blow dart.
Yeah.
And the Surgeon General's cutting instrument hits the ropes that are tying Snake Plissken's hands down, and then he just conveniently escapes. So that was a fun moment. But we really get into the meat of this when our boy Eddie Cuervos ends up capturing Snake.
Well, hold on. No, I got something to say. So they get out of this plastic surgeon fucked up prison thing. And again, this is these people are mighty bold chasing down Snake, who has firearms.
Large firearms.
So actually earlier he calls into the government and says, I lost the core burner and the hollow cam or whatever. That's the thing that can project his hologram.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also in your mind. You're like, oh, he never used that. Is that going to come back? Is he going to find it? I'm thinking about that now. So he loses the overpowered machine gun, but when he escapes the plastic surgery, he also has these other pistols on him because he asked someone else. He's like, give me my guns.
Like 357 Magnums. Like these are some mean fucking handguns.
So he has he retrieved the Magnums. He's running away with the two big ass pistols, and these weirdo cult people are chasing him down with like pitchforks. What are you going to do? He has a gun. Stop chasing down Snake when he has his guns.
Large guns.
Big cannon guns. Knock it off. Taslima, you're like, okay, I guess she's going to join the yellow brick road now. And she's talking about her time in L.A., why she was deported. This is where we learn of why she's here. She's like talking about L.A. She says, once you figure it out, it's not so bad. And then she immediately gets shot, and I laughed out loud.
Once you figure out this place, it's really not so bad.
How's that for not so bad, Taslima? This echoes Escape from New York because Maggie, Brain's like sidekick, when she was standing in the middle of the street with the pistols shooting at Duke.
Yeah.
It's just this very awkward wide shot of Duke just running over this lady.
Murder.
And So John Carpenter has some sort of sick comedic taste for injuring women and making it funny.
You could tell it's supposed to be like a meaningful scene, and it's just death.
And then she dies, and I was like, oh, that was supposed to be sad.
It's hilarious.
That was like an authentic laugh out loud moment for me. So Eddie, just like Cabby, swoops up Snake and says, see, I told you, you wandered into the wrong neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. I'm mapped to the stars, Eddie. And lo and behold, his dashboard has some Austin Powers booby nipple, what the hell do you call tips of guns?
Muzzles?
Booby muzzles, booby tip nip muzzles, flipping over from the passenger side dashboard and tranquilizes Snake.
Yes.
Eddie's like, I'm actually an accomplice of Cuervo Jones, blah, blah, blah. And he's explaining everything as he's kind of like passing out in and out black and white footage.
Our favorite plot device, explain everything.
So Snake gets captured and has to go into some sort of weird kind of ancient Roman style gladiator competition game battle. This one actually takes place at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, which it looks like they actually filmed there.
And I'm sitting here, I'm like, this is the same thing as Escape from New York, where they throw him in that boxing ring and they're like, fight to the death. I was like, we're doing it again, aren't we? We've done everything else again. Might as well do this again.
Except this is a way more awesome challenge. This is like a game show. So we see some poor sap. He needs to make, I think it's 5 shots because it's 10 points. They really explain it.
Yes.
They say 2-pointers only.
It's a basketball challenge.
They're like, none of that 3-pointers. Yeah. So there's a basketball court in the middle of this big ass Coliseum. It's surrounded by a barbed wire fence, and the contestants need to make 10 points. Everything's a 2-pointer. They lay it out that there's no 3-pointers allowed. And there's people
None of
with
that 3-point bullshit. that's where we were in the 90s.
It was
3-pointers were bullshit.
It was 10 seconds on the clock, right?
So after every basket, you get 10 seconds to go down to the other side of the court.
Full court.
Yeah, and make a basket again. Now, I'm sitting here thinking, I feel like I could do that. 10 seconds up a basketball court, 90 feet? Right? 90, 95. Is it 90 feet end to end?
About. I mean, that's just
bucket to bucket.
that's just layups right there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's this. I was like, this is just a conditioning exercise for a basketball team. This isn't a debt. They're like, no one's ever done this. I'm like, no one's ever done this. You have to make 5 consecutive layups.
They obviously never had an NBA player. But I mean, 10 seconds on the clock and it's a literal shot clock. If the clock runs out, they will shoot you, which was a little dangerous because they had guys surrounding the border who were technically shooting towards each other. Very reckless.
This whole Los Angeles Island is reckless.
So Cuervo Jones is like the Colossus guy, thumbs up, thumbs down, gladiator thing.
He's Caesar, yeah.
Caesar-esque. And Snake, he gets challenged with this. I was like, okay, this is way less intense than fighting a big guy with a spiky bat. This is just up to you and your basketball skills. And I gotta say, Snake is a bucket. Snake can hoop.
Snake has a shot, dude.
Okay, Snake.
He wasn't doing layups, dude. He was stopping up for like 16-foot pull-ups.
He was doing mid-range jumpers, like pulling up. I was like, okay, Snake. Then they kind of like up the ante as it goes on. At first he does like a layup, and then he does like a kind of like a close to the basket shot. Then he does the mid-range.
There's a little finger roll, yeah.
He pulls up from 3 and sinks it.
Banks it in.
He didn't call bank, but I'll let it slide. I was gonna say the scene is realistic because if for anyone who's not conditioned to sprint up and down a basketball court, you might be winded after 40 seconds because at the 5th shot he was kind of getting tired.
He hits a 75-foot one-armed heave,
and he just hucks it, and I'm like, he's gonna make this one because he's Snake goddamn Plissken. Booyah, baby! 10 points. He makes it. Cuervo Jones puts the thumb down and says, no, my house, my rules. Kill this guy.
Well, he takes out a gun himself.
Oh, yeah. He tries to snipe him.
But something convenient happens, James. What happens?
Well, doesn't Utopia just like, oh, no, sorry. Throughout the movie, there are aftershocks of the big earthquake still happening decades later. I don't know how that works. We have to bring on a geologist, a seismologist, a meteorologist.
Big time seismologist, yeah.
A sluricanologist. I don't know. Someone who...
Slurologist.
A slurologist has to come onto the pod and explain the science behind aftershocks. But they've happened throughout the movie. The Coliseum shakes, throws off Cuervo Jones's sniper scope, aim. Snake lives to see another hour on his ticking time bomb, lethal injection virus.
Nice, convenient earthquake. So Snake escapes. He ends up in the sewers. Snake does get the sword of Damocles. And then he gets shot by Eddie, who takes it back, but he takes back a fake version of the control for the sword of Damocles with Utopia.
This was Eddie's like device. He was trying to upsell Snake, and it was kind of just like a recording of his voice saying like, hey, this is Map to the Stars Eddie. Welcome to my tour.
It's like a tour guide tape. Yeah, tour guide, like guided tour audio.
So for some reason, that looks exactly the same as the controller for the Doomsday device.
Why wouldn't it?
Eddie retrieves the real device and claims to have murdered Snake to Cuervo Jones to get Cuervo Jones's respect. Cuervo Jones don't care.
No. And after Snake falls into the sewers, he gets washed out into... What canyon is that?
Wilshire.
So he gets washed out into Wilshire Canyon, and we meet up with Peter Fonda, surfer dude again. And he's like,
That was awesome!
and he's like, I need to get to Anaheim. There's an area called Happy Kingdom where the shit's going down, where I have to get to. There's also a helicopter out there I need to get to that's going to extract me so I can get the antidote. Basically, the dam breaks or something, but the reservoirs, all of a sudden this tidal wave comes. Surfer dude gives Snake Plissken an extra surfboard.
He's just packing an extra surfboard.
Dude, we get maybe the worst green screening surfing. Do you have words for it, James? I don't have words for it.
Awesome.
James says awesome. I'll respectfully disagree.
It was quite the 90s action movie spectacle. There's this huge rip curl wave coming down this formerly known boulevard in Los Angeles, which is now just a corridor for a wave, conveniently located next to an active road where Snake and Peter Fonda's character surf up, and the wave raises them up to street level. Snake is now surfing right next to Map to the Stars Eddie, driving in his convertible, booby nipple muzzle tranquilizer gun car.
I haven't surfed a lot in my life. I've surfed a few times. I know that if a giant wave is coming at you and you are literally standing still, it ain't gonna work. You need to be you have to catch the wave. You can't just stand there on land and be like,
just get pummeled by it.
Okay, here comes tidal wave.
It was a big wave. Snake rides that wave because he is just built different. I don't know what you want me to say, Nick. And he rides that wave up to Map to the Stars Eddie and jumps onto his car.
Off the surfboard, onto his car.
And he high fives Peter Fonda. And he's like, all right. He's like, peace out, Snake, or something like that. Surf's up, dude.
He's like Crush from Finding Nemo. He's very like, whoa.
Yeah, pops up at the right time. Takes you through the EAC.
So at this point, Snake gets back with Map to the Stars Eddie, and Map to the Stars Eddie is like, hey, look, the Cuervo guy, he's a piece of shit. I'm on your side now. And Snake's like, okay. Because, yeah, this guy didn't just shoot you in the sewers and leave you for dead.
He's kind of like a combination of Cabby and Brain from Escape from New York. Brain was always like, what side are you on? What side are you playing?
Yeah. But he's our chauffeur through this city, through the storyline. And he says, you should meet up with this person, Hershey. Hershey knows the city is going to be able to help you out. And so Snake escapes and goes with Eddie, meets up with Hershey. And this scene, this is where the backstory thing blew my mind. So Hershey is
So this is a transgender character. This is played by Pam Grier, who is a woman, but she's playing a trans character.
The voiceover, you could tell it was like a woman with a man's voiceover.
It was transphobic, is what it is. But we'll let it slide for 97.
It was. They went for it.
They gave Pam. They gave Pam Grier a really deep, like, hey, yeah, I'm not Carjack Malone no more. I'm Hershey. So,
okay.
Yeah, this is just this is the famous Pam Grier. She is an action movie star from 80s movies, 90s as well. So she was very well known. I didn't know about her until I saw this movie, and I kind of deep dived her. But
again, one of those.
Oh my God, she was in The Adventures of Pluto Goddamn Nash.
She was. Yeah, I thought you had went through her IMDb and
I'm
saw
looking
that.
at it right now. She plays Flora Nash. Wait, is that the mom?
Yes.
The mom. That's awesome.
I thought you had seen that. Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah, so she plays Pluto Nash's mom and Hershey, formerly known as Carjack Malone. Nick, please explain the backstory of Snake and Carjack Malone's dynamic, how it ties into Cleveland.
Snake walks into this room, and Eddie's like, I brought you Snake Plissken. And Hershey's like, oh, who is that? And
who is that?
And Snake is like, I know that voice. And he's like, you're Carjack Malone. Like all criminals have a name behind them. And Hershey's like, I ain't Carjack Malone no more. And Snake does this thing where he like grabs her leg and starts like lifting up her leg. And you're like, okay, it's a transgender. Is he feeling like, is this pre-op? Is he feeling some junk? He's like, you're still packing. He pulls out this gun that apparently Carjack Malone, Hershey packs in their crotch.
And Snake knows about sus.
And yeah, Snake's very familiar with Hershey / Carjack Malone's crotch.
Glad to see you're still packing a little gun between your legs.
Hold on a minute.
You owe me. Bolted on me back in Cleveland.
Hershey, you were in Cleveland?
Oh, yeah. With me in Texas might go shit, except you looked a little different in those days, Carjack.
You get one thing straight, Plissken. I'm no longer Carjack Malone.
And again, they just keep bringing up Cleveland. They're like, this is, oh, you left me in Cleveland. And even Eddie's like, Hershey, you were in Cleveland? You're like, what the f*** happened in Cleveland?
And then he does name drop Texas Mike O'Shea.
Did everybody have a name associated with the geographical area? Because, dude, I'm still thinking about
Is Fresno Bob nobody? Are we just moving
That's
on?
all I can think about in this scene.
Because Texas Mike O'Shea is the new Fresno Bob, according to this movie.
I thought I was going to get answers on Fresno Bob at this point. I was a willful idiot who thought to himself, maybe, just maybe, I will learn about Fresno Bob in this scenario.
Never. So they recruit Hershey to join the crew, the Yellow Brick Road, and they are going to invade this area, which is called the Happy Kingdom, which is supposed to be Disneyland. It looked nothing like Disneyland. I believe John Carpenter and the gang asked to film in Disneyland, and Disney's like, no.
Can't blame Disney. They're like, what do you want?
So as a little kind of cheeky slap in the face, they called this location Happy Kingdom in Anaheim, specifically.
And how are you going to get to the Happy Kingdom, James? What's the only way for Snake Plissken to get himself into the Happy Kingdom?
By a hang glider, obviously.
Hang gliders. They all hop on hang gliders. The Santa Ana wins because they know that, because the Hollywood sign is on fire because Hershey has this Korean crew. And one of these members is Jeff Amata, who is I guess just a great stuntman. He's been a stuntman in The Bourne Ultimatum, in some of the Fast and Furious films. So he's a big time stuntman who got himself a little bit of screen time. So good for him.
Hell yeah.
But this hang glider scene, whew.
They come in like one arming the hang gliders and like having Uzis in the other hand, just spraying Cuervo Jones's gang that's running in the streets of the Happy Kingdom.
Dude, when they pull up into the Happy Kingdom and Snake Plissken is one arm on the glider and one arm with the automatic Uzi, which I don't know.
That's like doing a one arm push up, because he's like standing straight up like a push up with one arm and it just like spraying fools with the other. And during this fight, Snake actually takes the remote, the sword of Dalmatians, and Eddie alters the route for one of his tour guide things to match it.
We do have a helicopter from the government that ends up landing in the zone of the Happy Valley, Happy Kingdom, whatever you want to call it. It just lands there and basically gets overrun by Cuervo's crew. I'm like, why did you just land there and get...
Not a good plan. Be better.
Yeah. At this point, they have a fist fight, Snake and Cuervo, because of course you have to have a fist fight. You can't have guns involved. And Snake and his crew, Hershey and her, Carjack Malone, whatever, their crew, gets in the helicopter along with Eddie and Utopia. They're like, we're out of here. Eddie leans out, shoots Cuervo right in the chest, and he's like, like that's his retribution because Cuervo's treated him like shit the whole movie. Cuervo gets up, unaffected by the shot to the chest. He has a rocket launcher. He shoots it at the helicopter.
I thought at this moment Matthew McConaughey was going to run out with a TiVo.
Toss it up.
When they're escaping in the helicopter, he busts out the RPG. I just thought, RPG, gentlemen!
RPG, gentlemen!
So Map to the Stars Eddie jumps out of the helicopter. Smart. Survives. Hershey and the crew burst into flames. I mean, just absolutely incinerated. Utopia and Snake, totally fine in the front seat. They fly off. Eddie's like, come back for me. It's like, dude, whoa. They just need to give Buscemi one last line. So they fly off. They fly over the river, the chasm, whatever separates L.A. from the rest of the country. Snake slips in a remote into Utopia's pocket. And we're like, oh, is that the Sword of Damocles remote? Did he give it to her? She seems pretty unstable throughout the course of this movie. I don't know why anyone would trust her.
She does flip sides. She flips sides because at first she's like, I'm anti-US. And then halfway through this movie, she's like, I don't like Cuervo Jones. He's mean.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, everybody's just a piece of shit in this film. We'll get into that.
He wants Utopia to take this apparently real controller away, run away into the forest. He encounters the government, the president. Utopia is brought out as captured. They found her. And they find the remote on her.
She gets sentenced to the electric chair. Her dad's like, you should have killed her. Now I've got to do it myself. Send her to the electric chair. At that point, Snake's like, give me the anecdote, because I brought you the sword of Damocles and your daughter. And they do the whole ha ha ha, like that's all. That we basically infected you with the flu. You're like, oh,
that was different than the first one. The first one was actually lethal injection, and of course he got the antidote shot at the last possible second. This was a little bit of a modern twist on a 1981 classic.
So basically, he was never dying.
They double-crossed him, and I want you to remember that for what happens in 2 minutes.
Okay. So the president takes Utopia's remote, and it's like, all right, now it's time for me to... They're getting invaded by like Cuba, other nations, right? There's like this whole war, geopolitical war that's happening that we're not really caring about in the course of this film. He goes to play it, and what's playing? Map to the Stars, Eddie's tour. Similar to Escape from New York, where it just plays a tape, right? A tape recorder, like, oh, I've been fooled.
And same thing. The president's like going live, like right now, to do a press conference.
The president is mad, and he's like, screw it, kill Snake. So they go to kill Snake, but guess what, James?
Snake's not there.
He's a hologram.
He's half a mile away, maximum. He is not there. He pulled a sneaky. I don't know when they switched it out on us.
Never, no clue.
In the first movie, he gave them the phony tape, walked away like a badass. In this movie, another switcheroo. They even say it. He's like, oh, what kind of switcheroo you got up your sleeves this time, Snake? It's a double cross switcheroo. Not only do they have the fake one, but he's not actually there with the real one. He's a good jaunt away.
And this is where the commander, played by Stacy Keach, goes, Snake, and he goes, call me Plissken.
Lost my respect, dog. You can call me Mr. Plissken.
And what does Snake do? He sets the Sword of Damocles to this secret setting, 666, which is basically just going to wipe out all electricity on Earth.
Snake doesn't give a fuck, dude. He's willing to send the entire planet back
into
to
the Dark Ages. Yeah. Jinx, man. Yeah.
So you fry all the electronics, but you still have books and stuff, and you can get stuff back online, right?
You still have the same engineers who can recreate electricity and technology.
Yeah. It's not like 200 years into a zombie apocalypse when there's only 10% of the human population on Earth. So, I mean, yeah, like you said, there's still the same scientists and engineers that made these things.
And Snake tosses his stuff to the side, his camera that created the hologram to the side, strikes up his cigarette, blows out the match, and we end on this phrase, welcome to the human race.
And that is Escape from L.A. Nitpicks. You got any nitpicks?
It's similar to Escape from New York as far as everything's plot convenience, right? He's going to die. Oh, he has the knockout dart, and the surgeon's knife cuts open his rope. He's going to get shot. Oh, there's an aftershock earthquake 10 years after the fact. You're like, okay. But really, it comes down to a lot of the movies from this genre. None of these destructive, massive, terrible devices that they have built have a failsafe. You don't have some kind of override system, anything.
That's exactly
to take care of this.
How I felt about war games, because I thought, why is there no emergency shutdown of the Whopper?
Exactly. You can't create this massive, terrible device and say,
if someone steals it, we're screwed.
Yeah, this is it. There's one single device, and I leave it like this isn't locked up. Your unstable daughter has access to it. Okay. And the only person who can get it back is Snake Plissken.
Because he did it once, he could do it again.
So that's my nitpick. What do you have, buddy?
No new info on Fresno Bob. I need an update, please.
Not only do we not have new info on Fresno Bob, we also have...
They're pulling a Lost on us. They're not supplying answers. They're just supplying more questions. Who is Texas Mike O'Shea, and what the hell happened in Cleveland?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could figure out what happened in Cleveland. No one's got any answers.
There's no answers.
I'll kind of touch upon this in my final review, but it's pretty bold to come out with pretty much the same movie.
Absolutely.
as a sequel, not as a remake.
Yeah, they present really nothing new to. I mean, you had a couple wrinkles, maybe, but at the end of the day, this is just the same movie in Los Angeles, and really, the setting of Los Angeles offered nothing new.
Just lowriders and drive-bys.
That's it. That's all you got. My talking point, I have two. One's a little bit of a diatribe. One's a question. Let me start with the question. Do you think Kurt Russell would ever come back for a third Escape film?
Absolutely.
Do you think we can get like an Escape from Chicago or something?
It should be Escape from Cleveland with Fresno Bob.
Okay. Well, we're dreaming at this point, but I agree.
Dream scenario, who is playing Fresno Bob?
Fresno Bob would be played by John Lithgow. Tell me that's not a dream cast. Come on.
Oh, this guy?
Yeah. Voiced Lord Farquaad in Shrek. He was the Trinity Killer in Dexter.
Yeah.
Like, wide range actor, could bring a little bit of the campy comedy to it, could be an absolutely weirdo psychopath kind of deal. I think a guy like John Lithgow, because he'd be the same age as like Kurt Russell at this point. Did you have a guy in mind?
No, I don't think I could beat that, actually.
Okay.
John Lithgow is Fresno Bob. Escape from Cleveland, Part 3.
We might need to write up some fanfic, my friend.
I'm in.
All right. My last point I want to make in my talking points, which I started to think about as we were discussing this movie, because I think it's really important, and it's going to inform how I guess on the box office return. This was an 80s film in 1996. And I don't know how well it worked because this wasn't like, we're looking at 1996, right? We've looked at movies like Fifth Element. We're looking at late 90s, like Schwarzenegger, right? We're looking at action films from the late 90s.
When I think of 90s action movies, the first one that comes to mind is Speed.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves.
Right.
That's like a quintessential 90s action movie.
It wasn't as, like you were saying earlier, almost campy, over the top, leather wearing, super colorful personalities. It was a lot more muted characters in the 90s.
If you didn't have the 96 timestamp on this, I would think this came out in 87 or something.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I think it's really weird that they decided to write you said Kurt Russell is one of his writing credits. I think they were stuck in the world of Escape from New York and wrote Escape from New York, but in 1996. I don't think it works. This is not a 90s action movie. This is a campy, cheesy 80s action film. And I'm shocked that you put this out there in the theaters in 1996. It's weird, huh?
This came out after Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And Jurassic Park is like classy looking throwback Hollywood high quality film. And then 3 years later, this one comes out and you're like, wait a minute. Is this a parody of an 80s movie?
And honestly, that's almost what it feels like a parody of an 80s movie.
Kind of like what I was talking about earlier. Pretty kind of like self-aware.
But that's the thing. I don't think it was self-aware. And that's what makes it hard to watch at some points. And what makes it funny to watch. Because it's taking itself very seriously as an 80s action film. But you're sitting there in 1996 like, what the hell are you guys doing? We put up with Fresno Bob in the 80s. We don't put up with Texas Mike O'Shea in 96.
So, like we said, this movie is a little bit of a rehash. If I were to give this a sarcastic selling point, I would say Snake Plissken returns in the same movie, except in L.A. Here we go again. Again.
Yeah, I mean, that's my exact sarcastic selling point. I said it's Escape from New York in a different city. That's the movie.
We'll keep the 80s vibe.
I think Kurt Russell stayed attached to it, and they went into the movie studios, and Kurt Russell said, I want to do this again. And the movie studios said, sure. Because we're going to get into the budget guessing later, but I mean, Escape from New York.
We're gonna get into it next.
Escape from New York was a $6 million budget, grossed $25 million. You're like, okay, if I can get a 4X return and Kurt Russell's attached to it, I'll sign off on whatever the hell he wants.
Well, speaking of the budget and the return, Nick, are you ready to guess what you believe the budget for this movie and the return was?
I think so.
Yeah, with CGI, special effects. I will throw this out there. I believe Escape from New York, based on our research, was shot primarily in St. Louis. So it's not actually New York. This one, however, seemed like they were actually on location. It seemed like they were actually in the Coliseum. Escape from New York's budget was $6 million, which is tiny for
But
an action movie.
1981, $6 million.
Still not a lot of money.
True.
And Escape from New York's return was $25 million. So that was a huge success. So what do you got? Take a stab at it.
I'm also going to factor in the fact that Kurt Russell is now a household name. So he's going to be a little more expensive to get, but you don't really have any other household names. Buscemi is Buscemi. I don't know where he was in his career at this point in the game.
I'll give you a hint. Kurt Russell's payday for this movie, percentage-wise, is the same as Eddie Murphy's in The Adventures of Pluto Nash. Not sure if you remember that.
Yeah, that doesn't help me at all.
Well, that's your hint.
Okay, so Escape from New York had $6 million. We had a few more explosions, a few more green screens. It's 15 years down the road, so it's a little more expensive. I'm going to put the budget around 30.
Okay.
And I know this is a bomb.
So 60% of 30 is roughly
18 million?
Yeah. So you're looking at a cap of 18 million.
Escape from New York did 25 million. I'd have to guess you'd have a lot of the same audience
15 years later.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and just the fact that it's a name like Kurt Russell. So I'm gonna say this was barely a bomb. I'm gonna go with that 60% barely. I'm gonna go $30 million budget, 18 million gross.
Ratio wise, you're not far off.
Okay,
but dollar amount, you're a little bit off. This actually had a budget of $50 million.
Where did they spend the money?
Compared to the $6 million from Escape from New York.
Holy smokes.
Wild.
They 8x'd that money.
Wild. The worldwide gross, which apparently is only US and Canada, was $25.4 million. So just about half.
Holy smokes.
Which is actually the same return as Escape from New York, funny enough.
Same film, same return, I guess. Wow. $50 million spent to make that movie, huh?
And I'm looking at an LA Times article from 1995. This is a year before the movie came out. One of the quotes is, Kurt Russell, a star with, in quotations, less than marquee value than A-list actors, is being paid $10 million for the upcoming Escape from L.A. So I don't know what Lance Thompson has against Kurt Russell.
Hits him with the less than marquee, huh? Wow.
Oh, wait, no. He's quoting someone named Claudia Eller. So I don't know what Claudia's beef is with Kurt.
Claudia can relax.
Yeah, sit down. So valiant effort and guess, Nick. $50 million budget, $25 million return. Not the worst bomb.
The return doesn't surprise me. It's the budget that shocks me.
$10 million went to Kurt Russell. He had all those special effects shots. You had seemed like a little bit more CGI shots. The finale was like so many extras. So you kind of have a more grand finale where Escape from New York was just like a showdown on the bridge with like a rope on like a dam, you know?
Yeah.
It was like a little bit less, a little bit more, humble. They definitely went bigger, better, and badder.
Makes sense.
Your definition of better or badder. So let's get into what the other guys are saying about this movie. Please hit me with the Tomato Meter critic score. I'll follow up with the fan.
This surprised me a tad. The critics gave this a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes.
And the rare occurrence where fan is lower. Fans on Rotten Tomatoes are coming in at 39%. 39% of the audience thought this was a good movie.
Yeah, that's surprising to me because for a movie like this, an action movie, you're usually expecting the audience to come in a little hotter than the critics. The Metacritic score, which is the second source we look at for our critic reviews, they gave it a 54.
Meanwhile, the Metacritic audience, finally representing, is giving this a 6.1 out of 10. Critics are also kind of complimenting the Tomato Meter critics, 54 and a 53.
So critics are kind of on the same page. And then we got our wild card in IMDb, which gives it a 5.7.
Final review. Fight!
I will say my laughable log line and reveal my popcorn points for 1996's Escape from L.A.
Hit me with it.
Snake Plissken is back again, and he needs to escape a major metropolitan city again and save the world one more time again. I don't know if you're going to hate me for this, but I'm giving this 6.8 popcorn points. This is 0.4 more than Escape from New York. This may be a controversial take. You're looking at me like, what the hell are you thinking? But it seemed like a better, more enjoyable version of Escape from New York. It seemed like, hey, if you're going to redo it, remaster it, and not make any changes at all, give me a little bit more enjoyable product. Because when I watched Escape from New York, I was expecting something more along the lines of Escape from Los Angeles, where it was really campy, the action was really out there, and Kurt Russell was just throwing down one-liners. For whatever reason, Escape from New York fell a little flat for me. Kurt Russell being very tenacious with getting this movie off the ground, saying, hey, I want to come back and play Snake, gets John Carpenter to do a sequel, which he does not do, I thought was an incredible feat. I think the passion behind the camera kind of raises the rating for me. This is kind of what I was looking for in Escape from New York. I'm giving it a 6.8. It doesn't hit that 6.9 so bad it's good. It's still on the high tier of a not good movie. But same exact movie. I think it's just basically a better version of Escape from New York. I enjoyed this movie.
Okay.
I will be in the rare company that says Escape from LA is better than Escape from New York.
Okay.
6.8 popcorns. Unseasoned, but fresh popcorn for me.
My log line is this. Snake Plissken is back, doing the exact same thing except in Los Angeles. 3.2.
Oh,
He gets a 3.2.
3.2?
He gets a 3. Well, here's why. What did you do with this movie? Is there original writing? It's the same thing. Like I said before, it's an 80s movie set in the 90s. Like, if you stack this up against other 90s movies, you'd say, what were these people thinking? You had a $50 million budget, as you just broke to me. $50 million, and this is the product you come up with in 1996? Sorry, it ain't going to cut it. The green screens were bad. The CGI was bad. The writing was bad. The acting was bad. He's the exact same guy. 15 years down the road, and nothing improved from Escape from New York. Nothing improved. In fact, it probably got worse because Duke was actually good. Steve Buscemi's character was overly campy, and this Cuervo guy made no sense. He never had a motivation, and it was just this. It's just the same thing. You can't go 15 years down the line, not evolve anything, and put something on the screen and expect me to say, "Oh yeah, no, I buy this. This is good." We talked about it. It's the exact same story beats. It's the exact same plot devices. It's the exact everything's the exact same. You get nothing from me. John Carpenter, you should have put out an original sequel. Maybe a different storyline. Maybe he gets dropped into North Korea or something. I don't know. But at least do something other than
Jessica Biel and Stealth?
They never even reference the prison island that's still going on in New York. Like, maybe there's prison islands all over the country. Maybe the world has expanded.
They're like, oh, after New York, like, what a blah, blah,
That's all
blah,
they said.
blah, blah.
All they said was after New York. That's the only thing they said. They could have said, maybe the world's different. The world is no different than it is. It's the same garbage. Like, what happened to the last president who got exposed? Like, what happened in the world in the last 15 years? That makes things any different? Nothing. It's the exact same world. It's the exact same story. It's the exact same everything. It's the exact same acting, which I would have expected to improve a little bit over 15 years. Like you said, oh, is it a remaster from Escape from New York? No, because the writing's no better. The acting's no better. Honestly, the stunts and props are not any better.
Well, you didn't like that hang gliding scene? It was awesome. The surfing scene?
It was terrible.
Surfing scene was sick.
Awful. So it was a terrible, terrible, terrible attempt at a film with the exact same storyline as the rest of the film. or the previous film. And if you ask me, did this deserve to bomb at the box office? It most definitely did. I cannot stand when somebody from Hollywood pumps out the exact same garbage that
but
they
it wasn't
did
some guys.
previously.
It was Kurt Russell and John Carpenter. They were down to clown.
There's a reason.
They were so bold. They're like, we're gonna serve this on a platter to the audience, and it's gonna be the
There's a
same
reason
movie,
that Kurt
except
Russell
better.
acts and doesn't write. Because this is the result when Kurt
That
Russell gets himself
hologram
in the
double cross at the end. What are you talking about?
it's the same thing. It's basically the same double cross we got at the end of the last one, except for he was a hologram this time.
2.0. Thank you.
15 years you had to sit on this, and all you can come up with that added anything extra was, I'm a hologram.
But the fact that Kurt Russell was so passionate and wanted to write this movie and reprise Snake 15 years later kind of gives me some bonus points.
No.
Call me corrupt like the president, but
You don't get to just run it back and do the same thing and get bonus points. If you improved the product 15 years down the road, if he would have went to John Carpenter and said, hey, all I think about is being Snake Plissken again, and all I can think about is the ways we can improve him as a character and improve the story. Let's do that. No, they said, let's run it back. This is the 2005 Los Angeles Lakers. They said, let's run back Shaq and Kobe and Karl Malone and Gary Payton and hope for the same result. But you know what? Everyone's older. Everyone's seen the script before, and everyone's done with it. And you lose. You lose to the Detroit Pistons and a young upstart crew every day of the week. 3.2. That's what this movie is.
well, if Snake was on the Lakers, they would win the championship because that guy can hoop.
Oh, don't even get me started on just the throwing in random basketball scene and a random surfing scene and a random hang gliding scene. They're like, oh, it's an action movie. Our star has to randomly play basketball for his life for no reason.
Was practicing his jump shot in between takes. He was married to this role. He wanted to be authentic. He is Snake.
Kurt Russell had been playing pickup basketball, and he's like, hey, John Carpenter, you should add a scene where I play basketball because my jump shot's really good. This is what happens when an actor like that. We talked about this a little bit in the season 1 finale with The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, where things just start to become caricatures of themselves, start to become memes of themselves, and that's what this was. It's like, oh, this is just Snake Plissken. He doesn't evolve. He's not a different character or anything. He's just the same old guy with the same lines and the same terrible acting demeanor.
Hell yeah.
It's a 3.2.
So 3.2 from you, which comes in as a bag o' kernels.
It's a generous bag of kernels.
Mixed with my unseasoned fresh pop popcorn. Does create a very terribly balanced 5.
Travesty.
Of pre-pop store-bought corn. Well, I'm sorry we had to open up season 2 like this. Little bit of a split here. The friction's in the room.
Tension is palpable.
I can already tell this is going to be a good season.
Season 2's doomed, my friend. Doomed.
Season 2 is going to be a hot one. You should tune in to the next episode. First off, make sure you're following us on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter. Instagram and YouTube at Just Play It Podcast. Twitter at Just Play It Pod. Not sure if we're tweeting anything these days, but you know.
We be tweeting.
Oh, okay. We're out. I don't have a Twitter, so I don't even know what's going on.
We be tweeting.
You could be tweeting out some egregious things. I
am ruining both of our good names on Twitter. Don't you worry.
That is Escape from L.A. That is the season premiere of season 2. Please join us next week as we dive into another Nicolas Cage joint.
Which one could it be? There's literally hundreds. But until then, welcome to season 2, bitches.
We are on the road, baby. Heading gone. We'll see you next time.
Yeet!
Yeet!
Yeah, but at the end of the day, everybody's just a piece of shit in this film.